Hello. How we doing? I'm gonna give you guys just a few minutes to hop on here, and as you do, say hello. Scoot up a little closer. I'm Chelsea Evans, and I am the furniture artist and owner on Apple Blossom Way. And last week, so every week I hop on here in the Redesign with Prima group live to demonstrate what I'm working on, to show some techniques, to give you inspiration or ideas, or to answer questions. So last week I came on and I kind of asked you guys what you would like to see, if there's anything in particular that you want to learn. And I talked about glazing the edges of transfers to kind of hide some of the halo effect if you see it, or to blend it into your furniture. And there were several of you that really wanted to see that. So that's what we're gonna do today. I decided to just do it kind of simple. I have a board that I'm going to show you on. It's wood. I think a lot of times the transfers are really, really beautiful just on raw wood. And I'm going to use Wise Owl glaze. It's called Black Walnut. It's my favorite glaze. It's a really beautiful combination of like a brown and a gray. It's like a grayish stain, but it's dark, so you can layer it and it looks really nice to blend the edges of transfers in and kind of shade. Part of this will be going back to my days of toll painting, which is way back in the day. Toll painting was quite popular in the 90s and probably before that as well. So if any of you have toll painted or taking toll painting classes, you should drop me an emoji or a funny GIF, because I think that would be fun in the comments. But some of those techniques I learned have been very helpful and useful in my painting career. And one of them is helpful that I'm gonna show you today. So I have a board. It's actually like a Thanksgiving sign on one side, and then the other side is blank. And I don't ever use it. And so I thought, I'm gonna put something on the other side, and then I can use it at different times during the year or for something else. And when it's Thanksgiving, I can flip it over and have a cool sign on the back. So anyways, as you guys hop on here, please say hello, tell me where you're from. I always like to see where our lives go. I think that's really fun. The transfer I'm gonna be using today is the vintage Botanical transfer. This is a really, really beautiful transfer. And I chose it because I'm just gonna cut up part of the transfer so we can apply it on our board here. But it's really beautiful if you use the entire transfer on a piece, or if you just want a little bit, it's great for that. Hey Roz, how's it going? And I have a disclaimer. My fingernails look really dirty because we painted with some of the metallics from Prima and they won't come off my fingernails. So I have they look like dirty. I should just paint them. Should paint my whole nail with them. All right, we got Canada as our first up. Welcome, Canada. So I'll show you part of the transfer so you guys can see it. I love how rich the reds and kind of like that nude color in this rose is. The greens in it are really beautiful. It's got some cool words, details on the Botanical. I am loving this. So I think we'll cut out part of that and use it. It has some bulbs in it, a variety of florals here. And I love how it has the number of whatever floral it is, and then it talks about it above. I think that's super fun. And it has some pretty colors. It even has a little bit of funky to it. See a little bit of like that cheetah leopard print, and then these kind of neutral florals. This is just a really, really great transfer to use the whole thing or use pieces of on multiple pieces of art or furniture or whatever, because it's very dynamic, which I love. So let's see, we got the UK, what's up? Are you guys can you hear me? If you can't hear me, tell me. Let's see. The 80s and 90s toll and oil painter. All right, so you know what I'm gonna be talking about. Okay, so I love this big rose, so I'm gonna use that. Let's cut that off and we can get our transfer applied, and then I will show you guys how to glaze around the edges. I'm gonna do my very best to apply this transfer and not take too long, but I sprained my hand and my wrist, and so I am very tender. So it might take me a little bit longer than normal to maneuver our piece. Hello from Georgia. The name of the transfer is Vintage Botanical. And I usually put that in the description at the top at the beginning, so I'm sorry I didn't do that. I will add it when the live is over. So I'm just cutting off our raw edge. This is the edge that meets up with the other section of our transfer. I always like to cut that right off to the edge so that I can line it up and I don't have any overlap. Yeah, it's the Vintage Botanical transfer from Redesign with Prima. All right, and then I'll cut off the bottom of our rose. Oh, that's so tender. We'll see how I do applying this. I do have a friend here. She doesn't want to be on live probably, but she might have to help me a little bit. My good friend Lisa is here. She owns Iron Rose Co. And she does really cool, she's beautiful furniture, but she also does really cool leather cuffs. Are you wearing a leather cuff? Mm-mm. Oh, I have a bunch in my room, but anyway, she does really cool leather cuffs. And she's here visiting me from Ohio. So if I struggle because of my wrist, I may have her help me a little. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. Okay. So now we've got our rose cut out. And then let's cut out, I'm gonna cut out this wording right here while I'm at it because I love the look of that. And then we'll kind of place it down and see if we need to add any more. I like these words that kind of remind me of like a apothecary, like pharmacy type print. I like that a lot. Okay, and then let's see, I think let's cut out this one because I really love this. Does anyone know what type of flower that is? If you know, drop a comment because I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but I want to see if you guys know. And you know what? Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. We'll see. I'll tell you in a minute if no one guesses. Lisa will help me to remember because sometimes I tell you guys I'm going to show you or tell you things and I forget. Starts with C. Maybe I'm wrong. Irina, you can purchase this transfer if you go to redesignwithprima.com and look under a retailer near you. There is a section where you can, I'm gonna turn it this way, find a retailer and then you can order it straight from them. Most retailers will ship, so if a local one is near you, that's great. If not, you can find one that will ship to you. Okay, no one's guessed yet. I think it's, is this a ranunculus? Is that what kind of flower that is? Rod said it starts with a C, so maybe I'm not right. Maybe it's something else. Anyway, okay, so our rose is taking up a large majority. I'm gonna kind of lay this down and I'm gonna turn this down just a little bit so you guys can see. And I might even let it run off the edge a little. Let's see. I think we'll kind of go like this and we'll put him down at the bottom there. What do you think, Lise? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start with my largest section first, which is the bottom, and then I'll work my way up and then I can connect it. You are correct. Holla! I think that's what it is. Maybe. I can probably look it up later. And I'm gonna cut this little wording off here too. Another thing I love about this transfer, I do love the little bits of wording, but something like this, if I don't want to use it on my sign here, this would be really pretty on a jar. So I love saving old jars. This is used like jalapenos, pepperoncinis. That's this jar, and they're really cute. They have a cute shape. So I save them. You can get all of the label off. This is just for water, but it would be really cute to save your little bits of transfer and add them to jars like this. Seal it up, and then you can use them for flowers or whatever. So this is a great transfer to save your little pieces with. Yes, we are just gonna have a little escape day for those of us in the US from all the drama, and we're gonna create, because on our tone scale, or a scale where you're happy or sad, creativity and expression like that is way high. So it's going to definitely bring us some positive vibes. All right, so I'm going to kind of set this and set my rose off just a little to the side. Press it down with my hand. And then it's a good thing this is not my right wrist that hurts, because I wouldn't be able to do this. And I am going to trim off my edge that's overlapping. Usually I would do this before, but obviously I didn't do that, so. The nice thing about this newer transfer as well is it has that grid system. You can see. So it's easy to line that up with your piece. All right. So I'm just gonna burnish it. I'm just going to apply the transfer straight to the wood. And what I'm gonna show you today with the glazing around the edges, kind of like hiding the halo effect, this works excellent with on painted furniture. I've done this on textured pieces as well, where I've added salt wash and then added my transfer so it's not completely flat. And I've used the glaze to kind of camouflage any areas maybe that didn't stick as well as I wanted it to, and kind of just give some dimension to it. And that's the beauty of a transfer, is yes, the transfer is the same. Everyone that orders this transfer is going to get the exact same transfer, but how you use it will be completely different. The parts that you use, the way you apply it, if you glaze it, you can completely transform it, which makes it unique and very versatile. My arm's gonna get tired though from my one. And okay. All right, let's slowly peel this up, make sure we've got it all applied. Typically when you're applying something to raw wood, as long as there's not any sap, oil, anything like that, transfers apply very, very nicely to raw wood. And then I'm just gonna go right over it again. I can lay the plastic down and go over the plastic, but I usually like to just go right over, especially if I'm not worried about paint, right over the transfer. And as you apply it, your transfer sheen is going to change a little. And I hope that you guys can see this, because I think this is a great example. Let's see. So see how it's shinier here, and then it gets more dull up in here? I haven't burnished it yet, so I haven't gone over this section again. This section I have. So you can see how well that's stuck and applied. I'm not gonna have any issue when I top coat that, no cracks or bubbles. It is really stuck on there. Now up here, it doesn't have that sheen, you can see. So I'm gonna go over the top of that and make sure that I have a really good bond. Especially if I'm going to glaze something, I wanna make sure it's really bonded to the piece that I'm working on. Another thing I really like about applying the transfers to raw wood is if you have wood with some deep grain, oaks, or, and I got a sliver, you guys, oaks, or other woods that have a deep grain, the transfer will kind of go over the grain and show that grain, and I think that's really, really beautiful. Yeah, this transfer is so pretty. I prefer to seal it with varnish. I prefer sealing my transfers with varnish. They're more durable and you can clean it, wipe it down, all of that. It's more of a permanent seal. So yes, you can use salve, but I do prefer varnish. Well, any water-based varnish will do. I use Wise-Owl varnish. All right, so now see, now we can just line that up and I can cut off this excess. And then I can save this little piece, and guess what? I could add it over here if I needed a little bit of color, or I can save it for something else. So I'm gonna kind of just line it up roughly and then cut this excess off, which is nice. I don't have to hold it down. I can use my little grid line and just cut right, just barely on the inside of that grid is where we're at. But as far as transfers go, cutting them up and dividing them, the vintage Botanical transfer is probably one of the easiest to do that with because the florals are separate. The butterfly one, what's it called? Butterfly, maybe it's just called butterfly dance. Roz, if you're on, you can help me out. That one's a really great one to divide up too because the butterflies are separate. Okay, so I'm just gonna line that up. Awesome. Where did I put that? Oh, there it is. Have any of you used this transfer before? The vintage Botanical. It's so pretty. So like I said, my friend Lisa is here visiting from Ohio, and I'm out in Utah. And my father-in-law he's been a cattleman for years. He sold most of his cattle now. He's kind of retired, but he still has a few. And his neighbor has Highland cattle that live down at the pasture. And they're so cute. And they have big long horns right now. So we are going to, when we're done here, we're gonna sneak over there and get some pictures of them. So if you guys follow me on my page, Apple Blossom Way, you will see some later. And if you don't, you should, because they're so cute. So, so cute. It's the little things that you have to look forward to sometimes, you know? Okay, so let's take this top off. There we go. We have a beautiful, you can see where you can even see that perfect line where I've burnished it, shine, and where I haven't yet. So that's always something to watch for. If you can't move your piece to see in the light, take your cell phone, put your flashlight on it, and kind of move it around so you can see that sheen. It's just a little trick that's gonna help you to make sure that you've really burnished it well, especially if you have any texture on the piece that you're using. It's really nice to be able to make sure and see that you've applied the transfer well to avoid heartache later. Do I have to seal a piece like this? If it's just a little sign that I'm gonna have on my wall or something, I don't have to. It would be okay. If I'm going to wanna wipe it down, clean it, if I'm gonna put hooks on it and be using it and grabbing keys or recipes or whatever off of it, then yes, I would want to seal it to protect that from the oil over time can break it down. So if you can protect it, especially if you're going to be touching it or handling a lot, then that will help preserve and protect your transfer long term. Yeah, that is so beautiful, isn't it? I love it. And I love it against just this beautiful pine raw wood. I could stain the wood previously, but you would want to make sure that your stain, if you're using oil base, that your stain has set for several days and that you put down a layer of top coat before, just to make sure that your transfer adheres well. If there's any oils underneath, waxes or something like that, sometimes the transfer won't adhere. So always keep that in mind. See the sheen, feel the burn. Okay, that's brilliant. I love it. I won't forget now. Okay, and then this one, let's kind of tie that in, and we'll add the words, and we will glaze it. That's the fun part. Well, all of it's fun, but okay, I kind of have to turn it a little bit so I can see. I don't know, now I'm like, maybe I should put this down here and the words up here.
I like the bottom.
You like the words at the bottom better?
Yeah.
I like this? Yeah. I feel like, because then it's heavier at the bottom and then you're, yeah, let's do that. It's nice having somebody here to ask. I like asking you guys too, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you guys take too long to respond. No, you don't. Facebook just takes too long to tell me. I don't know. There or there?
There.
Yeah, we're gonna overlap a little bit. That's okay. You can overlap your transfers. Just make sure that you burnish them really well. And I'm just gonna kind of cut off my excess here a little bit so I don't have to mess with it. Push that down. And I'm just gonna, occasionally I'll just check back to see if you guys have any questions. Sometimes I miss them. Okay, we're good, I think. Okay, let's add this one. I really like this one, Ranunculus, pretty sure. That's what it is. Ranunculus and peonies are two of my most favorite flowers. I really love them. I have, when we bought our home, we bought it in the fall, and then the next spring, we had a big, beautiful peony bush that I didn't know we had, and I was so thrilled because I love them. And they always bloom around Mother's Day, so you can get yourself some flowers. Or your mama, gram, or neighbor, or whatever. And the ranunculus are smaller, usually smaller, and they have tighter blossoms, but they're really beautiful. Okay, so just a word, if you're layering transfers, I'm going to burnish just like I would here, but when I layer, I need to work on that a little bit more and be a little bit more careful when I peel back my transfer, because sometimes it doesn't adhere as well as it's going to the raw wood. So I'm just a little bit more careful when I peel that. Okay. And then where I have my little bit of a halo, you can see a little bit where they overlap. I'm just going to come this way and then just be gentle and kind of burnish that halo away. When I say halo, it's just the little clear edge around the transfer. It's basically like a bleed line for when they print the transfer. Okay, that is so pretty. I'm so glad I did this because I just had this blank piece of wood for so long that I could have used. All right, let's add our words and then we will glaze.
Someone from Ireland on here.
Well, Ireland, huh? I am part Irish. Irish, Danish, German, and English. It's my heritage. Okay, so let's add these words. Make sure that's straight-ish. That looks straight. Use my grid lines to see, except I cut it. So I'm kind of on eyeball mode here. Oh, isn't that the truth? A new addiction. You know what? Transfers are so fun. They're so cool. And it's even really fun if you have a piece of furniture with doors to put it on the inside of the doors. So when you open up and there's drawers inside of a dresser, to kind of have just a pop, either whether you put it on the drawers or inside of the doors. A little surprise if someone has a piece of furniture, they want it very neutral. It's kind of fun to sneak a little floral or something on the inside of those doors. I always think that's really beautiful. All right, cool. We have all of the transfer that I want on there. Now with the words have little tiny edges to them, right? And so I could use this and burnish them on again, but because they're so small, I usually like to place the plastic back over top and kind of hold it down and burnish again with the plastic over top. Instead of just rubbing right onto the words, because sometimes, because they're so small, you run the risk of scraping them. So just keep that in mind. You can also do this with the floral parts as well, but I always kind of do it for the little words.
Hello from Estonia.
Estonia, hello. It's a ways away.
And England.
Hello. Okay. Oh, that's tender. All right. So we have it on there 100%. Isn't that pretty? So I could leave it just like this if I wanted to, and then I would put varnish over the top and seal it up, and I think that's absolutely beautiful. But part of this live is to show you how to glaze the edges. And then that's going to give this a little bit more dimension and kind of make it pop. So we're essentially going to be shading the transfer, okay? So, and I will do this the best I can to kind of hold it and show you at the same time. What you're going to need to shade the edges of a transfer, you can either use paint, like a chalk synthesis paint, a mineral paint, something like that. I have a Wiesel chalk synthesis paint out, and I also have my black walnut glaze from Wiesel. And if you would like to try any of those products, I do carry them on my site, appleblossomway.com, and or you can go to my page, there's a link there as well. So the glaze is called Black Walnut, and it's a really pretty black brown gray tone, which will look really nice with the pine wood we have and then our transfer here. I have brushes. I have just little detail brushes these are from Redesign with Prima. These are awesome for small detailed areas. I have water, a mister, and then I have water right here. And I have some paper towels as well, okay? So if you have all of those handy right by you when you are glazing the edges, you'll be much more successful. The glaze, Wiesel glaze, has about a 60-second work time. Unless the more wet I get it, the more work time I have. The paint is probably gonna have a pretty similar work time. So I'm just gonna go ahead, just have a little plate, and I'm gonna pour out a little bit of the glaze right onto my plate. I don't need very much at all. You can see that color. It's going to darken as it dries. So keep that in mind when you are glazing the edges of something. If it's not dark enough, wait and let it dry, and then come back and look at it and see where your color's sitting, because you might like it just the way it is. So here's where our toll painting kicks in, all right? I've got my paper towels right here, and I'm gonna start like right here so you guys can see. Got my brush. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dip my brush in water. Okay, so this is actually a sign, Patricia. On one side, it's the Thanksgiving sign. This side's just blank, and I have it just store it when it's not Thanksgiving. And so I thought instead of storing it, I would add this transfer, and then I could just hang it on the wall or set it on top of a fireplace or something. And then I would have kind of a cool decoration for other times of the year, okay? So I'm gonna wet my brush, and I'm only gonna dip one edge into my glaze, okay? So this is called floating. This is what the actual technique is called. And then, just to kind of show you, when I brush down, it's going to leave wet, and then it's going to leave the glaze on one edge, okay? So, I think I'll just gently kind of spray this a little bit, so it's a tiny bit damp. And then my edge with the paint on it, and I might have wiped off a little too much, there, is the edge that's going to go against my transfer, okay? So I'm just gonna take it right along the edge, and I'm gonna float. Now, because the rest of my brush is wet, that's gonna soften the glaze, and it's going to give it a shaded look instead of a harsh painted look. Both sides are wet, so I can just come right back down it. Okay, and see how that just kind of makes it pop, kind of gives it a little bit of a 3D effect. So I'm just gonna go around the whole thing. Now you can do this with any color. You could do this with white. But by doing this, not only does it give it that 3D effect, it's also going to hide any of my edges that might show that halo that I didn't get off. Now, you don't see edges as much on lighter pieces like this. Sometimes on a black, black paint or darker colors, you'll see those edges. And so this is a great technique. You can use this with your black paint or whatever color. Let's say you painted a maroon dresser, really deep inkwell, like a navy blue tone or something. Then you can use, you don't have to use the glaze, you can use your paint, and you can do the same technique and just gently go around the edges of your transfer and do this. I did not seal the transfer first. You can, if you would like to. I don't typically, because then I'm just doubling my work. I'm gonna have to seal it again. So I can kind of let it dry and darken and kind of see where that color lies. And then if I feel like it's not dark enough, then I can come in and I can go back over it again and I can add some more. So that's pretty wet. I need to let it dry. So we're gonna move on and come around the top. All this water here, that's gonna dry and disappear. So you won't see that. It won't be like a square edge. It will just be kind of the faded float. So brush is wet, dip the corner. Only the corner. This works best with a flat brush or an angled brush. Either one is great to do this with. Let me kind of turn it this way. See how well I can hold this. And you know what? I'm gonna bring it closer so you guys can see even better. Okay, there you go. And yes, I always hold my brushes in my mouth. Okay, so wet brush the edge, and then I'm gonna come up around. I can take my finger to soften it a little bit as that edge is wet if I want to, or I can take my paper towel and I can dab it if it wasn't soft enough. Okay, see how it slowly fades from that dark harsh edge and then it kind of fades out, and then like I said, the wet spot will go away. If you seal, you can seal your transfer first and do this. If you are nervous doing it for the first time, if you're afraid you won't like it, if your transfer's sealed, then you'll be able to kind of spray some water down and take like a paper towel or something and wipe that glazed edge off. So yes, you can do that. But the more you do it, the less you know, you'll be more comfortable with it or whatnot. So a lot of it is just about kind of practicing or making sure it's what you want. And you could do it thicker too. I mean, I'm only dipping the very corner of this brush. I could dip half the brush and do a really thick edge. As long as my brush is wet, then it's going to kind of let it bleed out and soften your edge there. You guys kind of see? So hopefully this will dry before we finish. This is starting to. Then you can see just that glazed part. But isn't that pretty? And then when I seal it, see how you can see the difference in sheen? When I seal it, depending on the color, if I use a satin varnish or a matte varnish, then it's all going to have the same sheen, so you won't see that sheen difference. You'll just have that slight color variation. So let's do the, get this wet again, leaves. Dip just our tip there. So you can see you really don't need very much glaze. And you can kind of knock some off. See how it's quite thick? And then you can keep going. So let's see, go right here. And kind of stipple it with my finger a little bit to soften it. And oh, you can see this on my wood, but especially if I'm using a white, it's going to appear even more. And then I can kind of stipple the edge. Okay, so that is floating. I want to show you guys one more way that I use. So that's when my brush is wet. You can also do it with a dry brush. You don't have to do like that soft floated edge, okay? So let's say I want to, hello from southeastern Virginia, hello. Oh, Virginia is so beautiful. Very, very green. That area is very green and beautiful. Okay, so I can use a dry brush. I can dip it right into my glaze. So I'm going to load my brush. I'm going to offload it. So basically I'm just stippling onto my plate a little bit. And then I can take the glaze and I can kind of just stipple. And I can create a thicker edge if I want to in some areas and really give some dimension. And it's okay, like I let a little bit run onto my transfer. It doesn't have to all go right onto the paint. Let a little bit go onto your transfer. That's what's gonna blend your edges in and things like that. Right here, where I feel like this would be more shadows, kind of bring that down, wipe off a little. If I feel like maybe there's even more, oh, I have used this so much. I've been really harsh on them, so obviously. If that ever happens, you can just take a tiny bit of glue and glue it on. Most people are, I would probably say most people are gentler on their brushes than I am. Okay, I can just go right down and kind of shade this. Now that I don't have very much at all on my brush, okay, there's, sorry, it's kind of hard. There's hardly any on there. I'm going to kind of dry brush. So I can take it and I can kind of just rub my brush along the edge. Even take some more off and I can just kind of gently shade that way with a dry brush and whatever's left. Okay, I can let that dry and then I can come back and float the edge with a darker color or with more of the same and really make it pop. So now you've seen floating. You can see this is starting to dry and now you can just see the glaze around our edges, okay? A little bit of stippling where it's a little bit harsher shading And then once that dries, I can come back and kind of dry brush and move the glaze around a little bit and soften that. Or you can just dry brush with your glaze and I can layer this. So I can let it dry, come back, add more, and continuously go over it until I get the desired look. But you can see the difference between, oh, that's hard to hold, between the areas that I've glazed, the edges, how they pop, and then down here in this bottom part where there's no glaze at all. So how that kind of gives it that 3D look, some dimension, and it's going to blend into whatever your paint color is, however you paint it. All right, so I hope that was helpful and you guys learned something. And my final request that I always make is if you have something you want to learn, a question or something, please leave it in the comments and ask me. I like coming on here every week, and sometimes I don't know what to teach you guys. I don't know what people want to see. So if you request, it helps me to know what you guys want, and then everybody benefits, right? And it gives me ideas. So if you guys can help me out with that, that's great. If I don't answer, then just go ahead and tag me, or you can message me on my business page, Apple Blossom Way, and then I can help you out that way. I'm more than happy to. So like I said, Apple Blossom Way or any of the Wisel glaze that I used today is on my site, appleblossomway.com. So I hope you guys have a great day. See ya.